Hello, everybody. Just like to read another Bible verse. It is written in Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding." Just like to share this testimony. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it's the truth. This happened in my life. So I was raised at this house where our church were about 10 minutes walking from our house. So basically, this is what happened. It was a park, a church, a school, and a park. And so I would go to church with my brothers and sisters, or most of the time sisters, walk to church, or sometimes parents would give us a ride to this church. So I knew that area very well. So I had no problems, you know, making it to church on time, when we were walking. And what happened is then we moved a little further down the street, basically. So now it took us 10 minutes driving to get to church, but we were still in the same area. So I want you guys to remember that there was a park, a church, a school, middle school and a high school, and another park. So then some time passed, maybe 4 or 5 years passed, and I got laid off from my job. I was not close with the Lord yet. And what happened is I got a call for an interview to work at the school that is next to the church, the middle school and the high school. But like I said, I was not close to the Lord. I would always take it upon myself, I could do it myself, this and that. So basically what happened when I got called for an interview, I told the Lord in my mind, it's like, Lord, I got this. I know the area. I lived there, like around the area for a few years. I went to the church that is next to the school. So it's going to be easy to get there because I knew there's a couple ways you can get to the church and the school. So I just told the Lord, basically, I got this. I don't need your help. So basically speaking. And I truly believe the Lord was like, okay, you want to do it and depend on your own understanding? Go ahead, do it. So I left the house. It takes about 30 minutes to get to the interview. The interview was in the school. And I left like about 30 minutes earlier. And I knew when I get there, I'm going to have like 15, 20 minutes just to sit in the parking lot, and just wait for my interview so I can be there a few minutes earlier. So I started driving there. And I was driving there. I got lost. I was shocked. Because the thing is, I was living in the area. I knew the area like the back of my hand. But somehow, depending on my own understanding, don't need the Lord's help, decided to do things with my own strength, with my own knowledge, with my own understanding. And I got lost. I couldn't find a way how to get to the school. I was getting mad. I was getting upset. I was getting angry. I was getting sweaty, stinky. And I remember I actually came and I seen a school in front of me. I was like, oh, cool. But then what happened is they had construction going on. They had the street blocked off. So I couldn't go through. So there was a detour. When I got to this place where they were having the construction, or they were having a street repair going on, I was like 45 minutes late to my interview already. So then I went to take a detour, and taking the detour, I got lost again. And I couldn't find it. I was mad. I was angry. I was upset. I was like, what's going on? Now I was about 50 minutes late to my interview. So what happened is I found a way to the first park. Remember, there was a park, a church, a school, and another park. So I found directions or got to the first park. So I remember I got to the park, I dropped off my car there, and I ran from the park, passing the church, and going to come to school. When I came to the school where his interviews at, I tried one of the gates and it was locked. I tried another gate and it was locked. So I had to run around the whole school and find one of the gates that is open. So one of the gates were open. I walked in. I looked on my right hand side and I seen one of the offices doors was open, or one of the doors was open. One of the rooms were open. I walked in and the janitor was there, and he's like, "Can I help you with anything?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm here for the interview." And he's like, "Well, the interview is in the library. You gotta go to the library." So I asked him to take me there because I knew I was already 1 hour late to my interview. So he took me to the library where they had the interviews. And when I came to the library, there was two principals, the principal for middle school and the principal for high school. When I came there to the library, I was so out of breath I couldn't breathe correctly. I was so out of breath I couldn't talk to them correctly. I was sweating, I was stinky, I was mad, I was angry, I was upset. And this all happened because I was dependent on myself. I was dependent on my own understanding and thinking. So when I got to the interview and they're like, well, the principals told me to sit down, and I sat down and I knew it. I knew it. The questions they were asking me, I was answering them bad because I was not in the mood. I knew it already. I'm not gonna get the job because I was an hour late. You don't come to the interview 1 hour late. So they asked me like about 5 questions, and they said, "I will call you." So when I walked out of the library, out of this interview, I called my wife to whine and complain. So I called my wife to whine and complain, and instead of her trying to calm me down, it was funny for her that I came to the interview late, even though I was supposed to be there earlier. So I got upset at her and I hung up the phone and I drove home. But like I said, I was so upset. I was so mad. I was so angry. Then a few months passes. They hired some. I found out they hired some person, and maybe 2 months after that, or maybe 3 months after that, I met the Lord. The Lord found me, and He brought me in, and I started spending time with Him. I start to get to know who He is. Start to trust Him in everything in my life. Start to trust Him. So then I get a call in 3 months after the Lord finds me in this world and I give my life to Him and I trust in Him. The same job called me back and they said the other person that we hired was not doing a great job. We fired him. So if you're still interested, can you come in and work for us until we get a replacement for this guy, because they have to go through the whole process. So I came in and I was so excited to be there. And basically the position is being campus monitor or security or yard duty. So I remember walking around the middle school side and the high school side, doing breaks. I walk around, keep my eye out, keep my eyes open and see what's going on. Making sure the students are in class, making sure students aren't doing any trouble, nobody's fighting, and so on. And the thing is, they had cameras in the school, the middle school and the high school, so they always see me on cameras, and what's very interesting, they had to go through a whole process. They had to put this position online again, and people had to apply for it, and then people get called for interviews, go through the interview. So the whole process had to start all over. But I was there, kind of like being a substitute, but being there every day. And what was very interesting for me, that people that came in for interview, I had to take them to the interview place. Like I had to meet them at the door, because I was, basically the face of the school, and being security there, being campus monitor. I had to greet the person and take him to interview. And every time I would take a person to the interview, I'm like, man, I hope this person doesn't get a job because I want this job. But the principals told me, don't worry about it. Everything is good. You're working here. We like the way you're working. So don't be worried. So they went, like the few people went through those interviews, and they called me in, like one of the last ones. I was the last ones that they called me in to do an interview. And what was very interesting, because I trusted the Lord in everything. I said, Lord, I trust you in everything. You in charge of the whole thing. What really happened is I came into this interview. Both principals were there. And what's very interesting for me, what the Lord does. The principal, middle school principal, would ask me a question, and she would say, this is the question she would ask me. If you're there being campus monitor and walking around, and you see one of the persons that lives in this area comes to the park and starts smoking, what should you do? Because they say basically when the school is in session, the park was included. Basically, when school is going on, the park belongs to the school, and after 4 o'clock, when school ends, the park is for everybody else to use. So I would, and the thing is, before I would answer the question, what I would do in this situation when the person would come in the park and smoke and all. So before I would answer, she would answer for me. This is what she would answer. She would like, you would come up to this person, you would ask him to leave because this is school property during school hours. And if the person wouldn't leave, you would just go back to campus, go in the office, and call police. This is what she would tell me, and I said yes, and I waved my head yes, and she wrote this down. So all the 5 questions that she gave me, she asked me the question, and she would answer herself. The only thing I had to do is nod my head yes, and she would write them down. So basically, what happened is, when you trust in the Lord, He'll make things happen in your life. He'll bless you, and that's what happened. Every question that she asked, she answered them herself, and I just nodded my head. And what happened is, after all, I got a job. And I worked there for 4 years. I loved the job. It was a good job. So the thing is, now, we have to understand, we got to trust the Lord with all our heart and not depend on our own understanding, because He's the one that is in control of everything, and there's nothing that is impossible for Him. So I want to encourage you guys, if you have to make some kind of decision, if you're going for a job, or you're going to some place that you have to make some kind of decision, just trust the Lord. Do not depend on your own understanding, because when we start to depend on our own understanding, we will fail. And Jesus Christ, won't fail. Be blessed. Have a wonderful day. May God bless you.